Welcome to the Underground, my little underground with Peter A.
It's My Little Underground. I'm Peter A. This week on the show, we have Alex Cohen, who performs as Dominic Sen, returning to the show after 4 years. She's got a brand new album, Apparition, out right now, and the release show is happening July 1st at Purgatory in Bushwick. And me and Alex talked about collaborating, concept albums, and so much more. It's good to catch up with Alex Cohen, aka Dominic Sen, returning to My Little Underground.
My little underground.
Dominic Sen, welcome back to My Little Underground. Glad to have you.
It's been over 3 years now.
About 4 years.
Love it.
But it's fine. A lot has happened in those 4 years. Visitor 2019 and now Apparition. I would say I love this album. I spent a ton of time with it, and it's definitely like the next step for you. But you probably talk about it, but I absolutely love it. It's so good. But I really want to talk about first is the release show for Apparition, July
Yes.
1st at Purgatory.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your openers. You have Sadie, a collaborator of yours, and Rachel Lime. Now, what made you pick these acts? And you seem to love Purgatory performing there. What about Purgatory that you love so much?
I love the actual physical space. Like, I think just as far as aesthetics and vibes go, it just, I don't know, it's more interesting to me than like maybe somewhere that has like slightly better sound or is kind of more of a better known venue. I love how that room looks. I love how that stage looks. It's just, and yeah, it's like really easy for it to just feel really full too. So that's always like a plus.
Yeah. But I remember when I saw you there, and it looked like everything you said is true, and I agree with. It looks like somebody's attic and like a high school theater stage at the same time. If that,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
definitely. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like spooky theater vibes.
Yeah, what's a little spooky?
A little
Especially since
spooky.
you're playing there and you give across very a spooky aesthetic musically. So there you go. It
I
works.
don't think anyone's ever described me as spooky before, but I'll take
I
it.
mean, pomegranate on Apparition is pretty spooky to me.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
definitely one of the spookier ones.
yeah. So tell me about the openers for this release show.
Yeah, so they're both friends of mine,
Yeah.
which, is always great to have for a release show. I want to have the homies there. Sadie is, like you said, a collaborator of mine. Not only has she been featured on a track of mine, but I also co-write and co-produce with her on some of her music as well. So yeah, we haven't gotten to perform like the song that we did live together yet. And I was like, what a better opportunity than my release show. And then, have her open for me. And then, yeah, Rachel is another fantasy sci-fi nerd. So I was like, us fantasy bitches got to stick together.
Wow. Did you have any other acts for this show planned, or Sadie and Rachel were just I want these two and that's it?
That was what I went with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So with Apparition, are you gonna have any physical releases, for the release show, or are you sticking with digital right now and you're gonna make a physical plan down the line?
Yeah, I think physical's not off the table. I just think it was going to take so long to get it pressed, and I don't know. I feel weird these days about like producing a lot of waste if I don't think that there's going to be like a high demand for people, especially something that's literally plastic. And I'm like, I've had records like sitting around forever. So I was like, you know, let's like put this out digitally, see how it does. If there's a demand at some point, then there's always the option to press it. And then this way we got to do something a little special that's like very limited edition as a physical release with this like songbook that we made, which has sheet music for all of the songs and then little like excerpts from the myth um, in between each piece of sheet music. So it's like a little, I'm calling it the Book of Song and Myth.
Yeah, that's good. That's clever.
Yeah.
But what about Visitor? Visitor was on vinyl. Did you
Yes.
have the same issues? Are Visitor records just sitting around?
I'm really not sure. I
Yeah,
don't know. I mean, I have some copies left still for sure because it came out like, the label had sent some to me, and then the idea was like I would sell them at shows, and then like a few months after the record came out, the pandemic happened, and so then there weren't shows for a long time, and
yeah.
then I was like on to the next thing. So by the time I was starting to perform again, I didn't feel like I was necessarily like promoting Visitor anymore.
Yeah, you were definitely on to the next one, especially during COVID. You put out a string of one-off singles, but maybe they won't be one-offs, like "Steal Me Away," which I loved.
Oh my
"You Say to
gosh.
Me," I loved too. "Bad Seed" was very creepy and spooky. Then "Steakhouse," "Looking for Pleasure," and then your collaboration with Sadie, "Love to Be." Were all these leftovers from Visitor, or not leftovers from, yes, yeah, I guess leftovers from Apparition, or maybe a lot of these songs will appear on future Dominic Sen projects?
Um, these are all just kind of one-offs, little explorations of different sounds and vibes and collaborations with different people. But yeah, there's no plan for any of those to congeal into like a larger project at any point.
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. I think that's what I'm hearing when I heard those songs. You were trying different things out because, again, like songs like "You Say to Me" and "Bad Seed" sound very different from each other
Right.
completely. It's almost like, there are journal entries, journal entry one, journal entry two, and then when were you going to, like, in the midst of all these songs that you were putting out, when did you really start to, okay, let me really sit down and think about LP2 and what that might sound like in a cohesive manner?
Yeah, so the funny thing is that I actually had another record that was done that got scrapped in between Visitor and Apparition because of just complications with the collaborator. So, it's really
Oh,
funny.
you told me that. You told me that in
Yeah, yeah,
Purgatory. That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
So I won't go into detail on that there,
That's
but
fine.
so yeah, the songs on Apparition, I thought I started writing those at a time when I thought I had another record that was already done and was gonna come out first. Um, but I had this idea in my head. I was like, I want to make something that is like feels like a Lord of the Rings soundtrack, but is also pop music. That was like the inception point. And I had kind of been talking to someone who I ended up co-writing a lot of the songs with, who is actually my partner. Um, I started talking to him about this idea, and his background is in like film scoring and composition. And so he knows how to do crazy like string arrangements and, complex harmonic movement that is a little bit over my head sometimes. So but he totally understood the assignment, and I started sending him some ideas for songs, and um, that's sort of all became a concrete idea and sound between like April 2020 and like August 2020.
How romantic.
Yes, very, very romantic.
Your love is just coming together to make really potent music, that stuff that just kind of comes alive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yes, obviously, like when you make music as a creator, yeah, you work hard at it, but as a listener, just listening to it, I'm listening to this, I'm like, wow, you really worked hard on this. It's right.
That's really, really kind. Thank you so much.
I feel like, yeah, this album, I'm going to each listen. I'm like, oh, I like that. Oh, I didn't hear that before. I'm still kind of unpacking it. I'm still kind of unpacking Visitor. I'm still peeling back those layers over there.
That's
So
incredible.
yeah, tell me about the concept of apparition, like this myth that the sun and the three moons forming after this great sacrifice. Was all this your idea, or is it based on something that's already been, created or established?
Yeah, it's all my idea. It's all from this little weird place, but yeah, so I wrote a novel, and um there's there's a creation myth in this novel. So here's the funny thing is, like, the album that got scrapped was supposed to go with this novel that I wrote. I was so in love with that world that I was like, I kind of want to stay here musically for a little bit longer. And so then I was like, oh, this creation myth that I wrote for this novel. So it's not, the novel doesn't tell the creation myth, but it just exists in the universe of the novel. Um, I was like, that's where I'm going to start. I want to do something really mystical, mythical, to go with this sort of like mystical sound that I'm trying to go for. I thought that those things would go really well together. Something that felt ancient and cinematic and dramatic and a little bit spooky.
Yeah,
um, so yeah, that's kind of the genesis of the creation myth.
with this universe that you created, right?
Yes.
Is the album not strict, I guess? Is it a full concept album? Is it chapter one, two, three, four, five, or is it kind of do these songs kind of loosely fit into this universe you created?
Yeah, it's pretty loose. You know, there's definitely, it's like, it's the framework, but it's not telling a chronological narrative by any means at all. And while it does like strictly stick to themes and um, emotions that are central to the myth, I'm definitely drawing a lot of inspiration from like personal experiences that I was having at the time that I was writing these songs. I was definitely whiling out, like, early pandemic, nothing to do, taking a lot of like psychedelics and just mind expanding substances. And I definitely think that that is that has like its signature all over this album for sure.
So when you talk about psychedelics in music, are you familiar with Madlib's Quasimodo project?
I am not. Tell me what that is.
Oh my god, it's the hip hop Dominic Sen.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
well, Madlib took a bunch of psychedelics and he doesn't like the sound of his deep baritone rapping voice, very
Okay.
monotone. So he did something to alter his voice using some sort of tape trick, and you have, as a result, a very high pitched vocal sound, which he made his character as Quasimodo. This yellow, he created a character out of it too. This yellow pig nose alpha looking dude, and it's kind of interesting to listen to on record because it's very trippy and far out. But like you hear Madlib rapping in his normal voice, then you hear this high pitched voice coming after him. It's almost like two people. It's trippy. You should check it out.
That
I'm
sounds
listening to some
amazing.
stuff. It's definitely in line with what Dominic Send is, and it doesn't follow a strict cohesive story, but it exists in its own little universe created. You would
That's
definitely love
awesome.
it. It's the same idea. A lot of
Yeah,
psychedelics,
please
a lot
send.
of yeah. It's really interesting. So when it comes to like concept albums and universe creations and all that stuff, so do you ever feel like you'll lose someone when listening when this person is listening to this album and trying to understand what the character Dominic Sen is, what the whole concept is, and what are they listening for? Like, do you feel like, oh, I might lose this person here, or conversely, do you feel like you've gained more listeners with this Dominic Sen project, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I when I write a song that belongs to something that has like a larger concept that is maybe a little heady or requires some to like some digging to figure out what's going on there. I'm still trying to write songs that can exist beyond that and outside of that. So um I don't want anyone to have to know the narrative or the circumstances surrounding the album in order to relate to like individual songs. So that's kind of my MO, is to make it be a song that can stand on its own and have universally relatable emotions and things that it's trying to do and say.
Yeah. Because when I was listening to this album at first, I overthought it because I'm listening to it thinking, okay, does this creation myth come into play? But these songs are kind of just aren't about anything super concrete. But I'm glad you clarified that. And when I'm listening to the album multiple times, I'm starting to understand. Oh, maybe it's not a strict chapter one. The song one is the beginning, and then the outro is the big climax of the story that you were trying to tell. But that's great. I'm glad you cleared that up. That's cool.
Right. Yeah, and I think Visitor was a little bit more on the nose in some ways, but it still was trying to do something similar by taking
Yeah.
universal feelings, emotions that we go through, and attaching those to like a narrative that once you know the narrative is there, you're like, ah, I see it. But you don't need to know those things, and it's certainly not something that would be intuited if you didn't have that information before listening.
Yeah. Because when you hear, not all, but some, pop tunes or any other kinds of music, it's about, things that are very, promiscuous or just a lot of vanity. Just let's go to the club, let's take some drugs, or let's get laid, and what have you. Like your music is a lot more, it's about something else, something mysterious, something mythical. Um, I think that's cool. And it's very like not challenging, but kind of interesting to take that in. Like watching, like a Wes Anderson movie as opposed to like Fast and the Furious. You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
Yeah.
shitting on Fast and
I'm
Furious.
not
I'm
sure.
just
I
kidding. I'm
saw the
kidding.
new.
I'm
I saw the new.
kidding.
Yeah, I love both. I saw
Yeah,
that one. I can understand the appeals of both, but that your music is more on the Wes Anderson side. It's more
yeah.
everything, everywhere, all at once. That's more along the lines of you. So when it comes to like Dominic Sen, like the figure, is it like Visitor was kind of more about Dominic Sen arriving on this new planet? Now, Apparition more about Dominic Sen or more about the universe that you've created for within the creation myth?
Yeah, it's more about, oh no, you froze. There you go. Okay. I just want to make sure that we were good.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, it's funny because with Visitor, it was like there were so many layers of persona. Like for instance, there was Dominic Sen, which is my stage persona, who I had created this backstory for, and then on top of that, I had a concept album that was about like a different character that was not Dominic Sen, but was also not me. And I, rookie mistake, am now realizing that that was like a really complex thing to try and tell, and for people who weren't like, you know, I'm a small artist. They're not going to spend a lot of time trying to understand the nuances of these things. It's not like
Mhm.
I'm Grimes and like people are like, "Oh, what is she doing?" and they're going to try and understand all the different layers. So, I think things got a little convoluted in the retelling of the narrative, and so I kind of decided for this campaign to kind of shed the backstory persona of Dominic Sen and have that just kind of be like my stage name instead of using like my regular name. So that way, when entering the realm of another concept album, there's not like these multiple layers of personas that people are having to unpack. It's just like Dominic Sen, the performer, making a concept album. And the myth, the creation myth, it's not even about anyone's, I mean, it's told from the point of view of like a young woman, but she's kind of like faceless and nameless. It's kind of the universal you, in a sense. It's like we could all be this person. And so in that sense, there's not really like a persona there who is central to it. I want it to be kind of like self-insert in that way.
So with the novel that you wrote, is it distributed or it's something that you just kept to yourself?
It's something that I have kept to myself thus far.
And you're sharing bits and pieces of this of the at least the universe of the novel through this album.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I was planning to obviously have it be a little bit more expansive with the album that got scrapped, but so be it. And it's just kind of cool. It's like, oh, I have this little creation myth that I came up with that can exist on its own outside of the novel. In some ways, it's its own story.
okay. So with the production of this album, you co-produced Visitor, and now you fully produced Apparition. So in between these albums, what musical production skills that you've sharpened in between these albums?
Wow. I mean, it's not easy to like list specific skills. I think it's more just a confidence thing and a time thing and trusting my taste and my intuitions. And yeah, there's like some technical things that I got better at, but it's not like a laundry list of like, oh, I'm going to learn to do this and this. It's just more sitting down and being like, I know I have what it takes to see this song through to finish. And I'm a very like process oriented producer where like when I sit down, I might have like a vague idea of something I might want to write, but I always like to have just kind of hours where I'm just exploring like what possibilities I could um all the possibilities of like how something could sound or what instrumentation it's going to have. And that's part of the fun for me is like really not knowing where it's going to go sometimes.
Did you learn a new instrument?
No, I did not. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everything you've already learned, or not learned, but like knew as far as making music, you already had. Um, is there anything you felt when like as soon as Apparition was done, when you heard it for yourself, and did you think that okay, wow, compared to Visitor, I got better at this, I got better at that, I got better. Maybe I'm a better singer now, or I'm a better arranger now. I'm a better songwriter. Do you
Right.
feel any of those feelings?
I do feel like all of those things are
Yeah.
true. It's a little difficult because I think with Visitor, like the watermarks of my collaborators are so clear on that. So it's hard to be like, oh, this is better because they just feel so different to me. And there are things that my collaborators on Visitor were really excellent at that are not my skill set and were not even things that I was trying to replicate with this record. So in that sense, it's like, it's like sort of like comparing apples and oranges.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So you said collaborator has been the common refrain of our conversation today, which is great. And as far as Apparition is concerned, like you had various people lending either poetry, instrumental pieces, even songwriting. So was it a smooth process to get people involved with Apparition, or did people come to you? And was that process smooth of getting people who wanted to reach out to you to collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, it all happened really organically and naturally, and it wasn't even this stuff all happened kind of before the album itself felt like a concrete thing that was going to happen or be finished. I had started writing these songs and knew it was going to come together to be a project, but I wasn't like, "Oh, I'm missing this or I need this or this yet." It was just very much uh like stream of conscious like writing phase. So the the song My Stars has poetry from my friend Kat who did this really crazy poetry project where she was taking Petrarch poems. And then this was again like early pandemic. She and her husband were like living in like a remote Scottish island because they were supposed to go to Spain. She was supposed to do research there and then ended up leaving the country because of that and had this family house that was unoccupied in like the middle of nowhere. So she's like stalled away in this cottage in a remote island in Scotland and started this project of writing poems where she was taking Petrarch poems and kind of translating them, but like intuitively translating them without knowing Italian, really. And then making her own poems out of it. And it all came together to be a book that she got published called Space Parsley. And one of the poems in that, My Stars, the lyrics are like a little excerpt from that. She had sent it to me in one of the early phases of writing these poems and sent it to me in an email and was like, I don't know why, but this poem makes me think of you. And I read it as I was like waking up, and it just felt like I was having like a very strange continuation of a dream as I was reading the words. Um, but then like months later, like a couple months later, she was like, I was wondering if you would want to ever put music to this poem. And so I did. And then I was like, wait, this needs to be a part of this project because there was something about it that felt relevant to the myth and the story that I was trying to tell.
Wow, wow. Like collaborating just really comes like natural to you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are times when I like reach out to people specifically, but yeah, with this, it kind of ended up being what it was always supposed to be. I wasn't trying to force anything. Like even the song Mist, which was another collaboration, one-off collaboration with someone who had worked on Visitor, Cameron Wish, and at one point he like called me up and was like, "Hey, I was thinking about you. I was thinking like it would be really cool to like write a song together." And we had a conversation about what we were into and inspired by, and I was talking about like all the psychedelics that I was doing. And then yeah, he just sends me this like wave file like a few days later that's just called X, and it's like this 6-minute long jam, uh like all on like piano sort of, and then it has like some very basic drums at some point, but none of it's so funny because the only things that ended up in the song were like the chords that he had sent me, but it just, and I ended up just taking it all from there. um but it felt like that, I felt so inspired by what he had sent me. It felt very central to like what the song ended up becoming still.
Wow. Well, and I like that piece though.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, this is a
Thank
really
you
great
so
album. I'm
much.
really
Oh.
loving it more each time I listen to it. And yeah, I really believe in you as an artist, and I love the Dominic Sen character from the beginning. And I want to thank you so much, Alex, for taking the time to talk with me. So this is your chance to plug anything you got going on, anything going on past the 7-1 show in Purgatory.
Not at the moment. I kind of want to take the rest of the summer off. I've been naturally writing new material, and my next project is already starting to form. So I want to like enjoy the summer, and write, and also just be out. And I feel like it's so important to be engaging with the world in order to feel inspired and have things to write about. So yeah, so this will be the last chance to see me probably until the fall sometime. Um, July 1st at Purgatory. I'm building a set. It's going to be a big to do. I've got some tricks and some special moments planned, so definitely worth coming out.
Wow. Thank you so much, Alex. Plug away. Tell people where to find you, buy your record, listen to your record, what have you.
Yeah, I mean, you can listen to it anywhere that you can stream music, as all the usual suspects there. if you're interested in the Book of Song and Myth, that can be purchased via Bandcamp, and it comes with a digital download of the album as well. And it's like a very limited run. We only made 50 of them. So definitely snag one if that interests you at all.
Okay. Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. I love that you've just been along for the ride. It means so much to me.
You got it.
My Little Underground.